Alrighty, welcome to the Cover 2 podcast. I'm your co-host Wyatt here with Ethan, brought to you by Cooper Sports. Hopefully you had a really good Thanksgiving weekend. I know it was good for me being back in Michigan. I am currently made the trek back to DC, so here now, but excited to start talking about week 13 in the NFL. We're really coming down to the winding end of the season. Ethan, happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully it was a good week. How are you feeling in regards to I know we both kind of struggled on our bets. We'll get into that a little bit, but how are you feeling about this week in the NFL?
Yeah, man, as always, thanks for having me. I know you had a huge weekend with the Michigan game. Probably didn't matter what happened in your NFL bets as long as, Michigan got that win. You weren't phased this weekend, so good for you. Happy for that win for you. Michigan State for me couldn't make a bowl game, so it's all right. Don't have to think about it anymore. But yeah, man, great Thanksgiving. Good to see family, friends, have some time to take a little break from the handicapping and just relax a little bit. Like you mentioned, bets were not good at all after Thursday. But yeah, I mean, we'll bounce back. Got big week this week, so I'm feeling good about it.
Yeah, I can't believe I didn't start off the show by, talking about my boys in blue. I know we're not really a college football podcast, but yeah, what a weekend. Did not expect Michigan to do that to Ohio State. Kind of on top of the world right now. Got to win the Big Ten, but after that, I think we have a pretty good chance at least making the national championship. I don't know if we can pull it off, but yeah, that was a great weekend. And you're right, didn't really matter how my bets went as long as my boys won. So yeah, I'm a happy man. And quickly touching on Michigan State, it was a weird year for them. They struggled with injuries, struggled with off field actions, and I think it's just another good year for them to build off of this. I think Michigan State does really well with people against them and them talking about last season, and so I think it's really good momentum going into this offseason for them, and I think Tucker is going to really use that for his boys. Week 12 recap. We had three Thanksgiving games and a couple other big games we want to talk about. Let's first get into Thanksgiving. Me and you, I think we're both pretty profitable on that Thanksgiving day. I think I went 11-5. I think it was up just over 6 units on Thanksgiving Day. It was a pretty good day. Nothing better than just watching football on a full stomach and having 6 open bets per game. But I got lucky. I'll say that. I had Thielen in that Vikings game to score a touchdown. He got one in the last minute, so that was a good bet. But let's get into these games. First off, our Detroit Lions fell to the Bills 28-25. This was a close one. I believe Detroit scored to tie it with 23 seconds left. And then I think Allen threw it to Diggs over the middle for like 30 yards to put him in the field goal range. Overall, though, I was proud of the Lions. They're battling. They're not giving up. They still have a small chance at this wild card spot. They obviously need to win a lot to get that spot, but I'm proud of them. The Bills are a tough team. And Detroit really was in it all game. It was never like they were coming back from 14 points. Like they were within a touchdown or 3 points the whole game. So I was proud of Detroit. Obviously they have a lot to work on, but I think this is a pretty good loss for them and something that they can build coming up to this week.
Yeah, for sure. They looked really good. I did have Buffalo -10 in that game, so that never had a shot of hitting. That was my one side loss on Thanksgiving. Um, just side note, I'm so done betting against Detroit on Thanksgiving because there's nothing more awkward than your uncles and dad and brother and everyone cheering for the Lions, and you're just awkwardly sitting there like trying to cheer, but you don't want them to score. And yeah, I'm done with that. So, but yeah, I mean, I think Detroit, kind of like I mentioned earlier, they had a shot to win that game outright. I think the play calling at the end was extremely conservative. It looked like they were just going for the field goal and wanting to go to overtime, which is kind of an asinine thought to me. But yeah, they played them tight. My last thought is somehow, some way, I feel like in every game, when you need to get to that big red field goal marker here, they get there. Like
Yeah.
they get right to that line somehow, as if it's actually on the field, which I don't know is something I noticed in the Diggs game. I noticed it a couple more times this weekend. Just something to keep your eye on, but very interesting how they always manage to find where that imaginary line is and get right to it.
And especially the Chiefs, the Bills. I know the Chargers did it a couple of times. Those
Hmm.
passing teams just seem to know where the field goal range is. And we saw last year when Mahomes did it with 13 seconds left, stormed down, and
Right.
so it's definitely scary because with these kickers now, when they can kick 60 yards pretty accurately, like you are never truly out of the game within 15 seconds. So I knew right when they scored that the Bills will probably have at least a shot at the game winning field goal. I just didn't realize they were going to do it in one play. But
Right.
I remember when the lines went up in the fourth. I think there's 13 minutes left in the fourth. They went up, and I told my whole family, all right, just take a snapshot now, because this is the only time you're going to see them up in this game, because they're going to find a way to screw it. And of course, Detroit does it. That's just what they're known for. But
Right.
again, glad they battled. It wasn't completely depressing, and we'll get into this week, but I'm really excited for this week.
Yeah.
Moving on, we had an interesting game, an NFC East between the Giants and the Cowboys. Giants were actually up at half, and then Dallas just kind of did their thing and stormed back. But this was a good game, I think, for both teams. Dallas is proven, and I know you're high on Dallas, and rightfully so. But Dallas has proven that they can, really handle these teams and handle, tough opponents. And the Giants, who had a bad loss last week to Detroit, have proven that they're still a contender. They battled this game. Their second half wasn't so great, but their first half they dominated that whole game. So I thought it was a pretty good game overall for the NFC East. Just to show that their dominance in the league so far. And again, I'll hand it off to you because I know you're a big Dallas guy, but this made me feel good about the Giants because I thought they were a little bit fraudulent all year. And even though they did lose, they were dominating a majority of this game.
Yeah, this for me was my favorite game of the weekend just because of that backdoor cover. I think you and I
Yep.
both had the Giants plus 10 there, so
Yep.
that was fantastic. But yeah, I mean, I don't have much more to touch on. I do think the Giants are a little bit fraudulent. They do have a decent defense though that can and has won them some football games. Um, but yeah, I mean, Dallas is just too good on defense, too good on offense, and yeah, I like Dallas to keep rolling, as I've mentioned before. But yeah, that backdoor cover was just,
Yeah.
oh man, poetry in motion right there.
Yeah. I had the under in this game as well, which unfortunately did not hit. But thankfully for my fantasy team, you did say Saquon was going to get a touchdown. I did not think he was going to. He ended up getting one off in the first quarter. So that was really nice for the fantasy team. Unfortunately, we could not pull out the win. But yeah, you were correct on that Saquon touchdown, which I really appreciated. Moving on, to be honest, I didn't really watch this game because I didn't sleep the night before because we went out. Well, we didn't go out. We went to a house party, ended up staying up to like 4 a.m. and then Thanksgiving, you have all that food. And by the time the New England Minnesota game rolled around at 8:20, 8:30, I could barely keep my eyes open. So I did watch the recap of this game. I watched the first half. Unfortunately, I did not watch the second half, which turned out to be quite entertaining. But the Vikings pulled this one off 33-26. Do you want to take this one away?
Yeah, this game kind of hurt my soul. I loved Minnesota all week. If you caught my episode of the Better and Green podcast last week, that was our big three squad ride was Minnesota -3. And what did I do? I went out and made a juicy plus 3,200 parlay with New England plus 2.5 in it. And that's what it came down to was New England. I did hedge pretty well with Minnesota.
Okay.
So I still made some good money on this game, but God, what an idiot. I mean, that's 2 weeks in a row I've faded myself and I've lost because of it. So yeah, kind of hurt. I was rooting a little bit for New England at the end there just to cash that parlay. Um, but really good game. I mean, both teams looked very good offensively. Kirk Cousins in prime time finally looked competent. But yeah, I think Minnesota kind of came back off that bad loss to Dallas and kind of proved they're kind of right where they should be. And yeah, I mean, New England, I think it's positive for them going forward because offensively they looked good. They already have a good defense. So good game overall.
Yeah, I was on the over in this game just because the last week, Vikings scoring 3 and New England scoring 3 on offense. So I thought both teams would turn it around, and it was the under or the over was never in doubt. They were, 17 points in the first quarter, that 2 touchdowns within the first 5 minutes. So that was really nice to not at least sweat that one. So that was a good win. So overall, before we get into how our weekend got really bad, pretty good Thanksgiving for us. I think we both ended up pretty profitable. And then downfall happens on NFL Sunday, which somehow to me at least happens every week. But this could be a week we turn it around.
Right.
So we'll get into. We won't spend as much time on these games than like we did on the Thanksgiving games, but we will quickly get into these ones. I'll start, and we kind of talked about it. Tampa Bay, Cleveland. Bad game for Tampa. We thought this was a must-win for Tampa. We thought both of us were on the consensus that Tampa would start a little streak here and go forward with a nice win over a Cleveland team, which we said was in a bad spot. Was Brissett's maybe last game now that Deshaun's coming back. So we thought Tampa would take, control of that, but they blew it. They go to OT and they had a couple chances in OT, and then the Browns and Nick Chubb shoved it down their throat and down my fantasy's throat. So yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on this because we already covered it, but just bad for Tampa and kind of disappointed, to be honest, because I'm still kind of a Tampa fan. I really like Tom Brady. I really want to root for him, but this isn't their season, and unfortunately, I think Tom's probably going to be done pretty quickly here.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add. I mean, that was Njoku's. It's got to be his top 3 catches of his life. I mean, just really, like I said, I just lost 3 bets on the Titans game, which we'll get into here in just a minute. And that was just the nail in the coffin for me. That was my last bet I made in the NFL on Sunday because I just was getting my ass kicked. So yeah, just a bad way to lose for Tampa.
Yeah, for sure. There was another game that I was an idiot and fell for. I took Baltimore money line in this game, the Baltimore and the Jacksonville game. Jacksonville ends up winning 28-27 on a last second 2-point conversion on their touchdown. I believe there was 15 seconds left. But yeah, Vegas just knows. Sorry, 14 seconds left. Vegas just knows on these weird lines. I know Jacksonville's a tough place to play. I remember this line, I believe it was either earlier this season or last season, where Jacksonville had a ridiculous line. I think they're almost even favorited in a game at home. And I was like, it was just very weird. And then they cover. And what do you know, this week they cover again to a Baltimore team that I don't know how I feel about these guys. They either look great or they look like they can lose to just about anyone. So it was an interesting game. It was exciting. There was 33 points scored in that fourth quarter. So the offense really took hold late in that game. But yeah, Jacksonville pulls it out, even with ETN, who was out. I think he had 0.3 fantasy points. I don't know the extent of his injury, but yeah, Jacksonville takes care of business at home with almost their best player out, and bad loss for Baltimore.
Yeah, luckily I stayed away from this game. The line was just a little too fishy. All I'm going to add for this one, I don't know how the hell Marvin Jones' touchdown was upheld after CeeDee Lamb's was taken away from him on Thanksgiving. It just, to me, were very similar plays, with the CD was the extension of his foot, and for Marvin Jones, it was the extension of his leg. So I just don't understand the ruling there. I do have Baltimore winning that division, so I was rooting for them. So kind of disappointed in how that game ended. Don't understand the ruling of the touchdown there, but I guess that's why I'm not a ref.
Right. And back to that ref ruling, that Henry touchdown in the Patriots game. I don't know how that was overturned either. He had the ball. It moved, but his hands under it the whole time. Isn't that the rule? It can't touch the ground.
Yes.
I don't is the end zone out of bounds? Like, he's still in play. So I don't know the ruling on that. I just know ever since that Calvin Johnson overturned, it's that what's a catch and what's not a catch has never fully been answered. And
right.
I think the NFL quickly will have to do something, if not, hopefully by the end of the season, but we need to figure this out because that's just ridiculous. It's costing a lot of people money on these bets because I don't think the officials even know. They're just guessing out there. I don't know. Is a shin technically 2 feet? Like no one knows. Is a
Right,
hand 2 feet? Is a finger
right.
2 feet? Like
Yeah,
so. Yeah, they need to go ahead.
I'm bummed you brought up that Henry touchdown. I'd forgotten about that because I hurt my Patriots parlay. But yeah, just a couple of bad beats on touchdowns this week for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand it's a tough situation for the refs, but they just got to. I don't care what you choose, just make it consistent. That's all I ask for.
Exactly.
Uh, do you want me to get into this one? I know you lost quite a bit of money on this. I will say this was my favorite, my most confident play last week. I did have the under. Oh, sorry, no, it wasn't. Not my most confident, but I did win this one. My 2 out of 5. I did take the under in the Cincinnati Tennessee game. It ended up 2016. We talked about it a little bit before the show, but Tennessee was never truly out of it. They had a chance at the end, a really bad center infraction call on the field goal that could have put Tennessee down by 7, but they had a lot of time left to figure that out. This was a painful game for us both. I know I did have the under, which did win, but I had $190 on Derrick Henry anytime touchdown. So that one's a nice kick in the balls. I'll let you you can go on this one. I know
Just
this was a very painful game for you.
just awful. Just
Yeah.
yeah, worst game of the year. I mean, Tennessee money line over 42.5 and Derrick Henry anytime touchdown. Uh yeah, Henry gets stripped at the 2-yard line on a 75-yard screenplay. I wasn't too upset at the time. It was early in the game.
Right.
Traylon Burks jumped on it, so it was still a Titans touchdown. And yeah, Henry was bottled up after that. Really never had a shot of scoring. And then just to get the penalty that you so rarely see of the Titans defender just completely bull rushed the center. It looked like a frustration penalty to me. Um, yeah, I mean, who knows, but I think my Tennessee money line and the over were definitely still in play at that point. They had almost 2 minutes to try to score there. And they were moving the football relatively well with Tannehill's arm during the game. So yeah, just man, I couldn't breathe. It was just like you said, a kick in the balls right when that penalty was called. I just knew it was all over, and yeah, tough loss there.
Yeah, and this will be interesting to keep looking forward because I know Tennessee has a huge, or sorry, Cincinnati, both teams, but Cincinnati is a huge matchup this weekend, and we both predicted them to lose this game. I know we were both on Tennessee money line, but no one Cincinnati really came out of nowhere on this game, and I think they have a lot of momentum moving forward. And I think Vegas recognizes that with the really weird line in the game we're about to get into when they play the Chiefs this weekend. So that'll be a really interesting game. And I am a Joe Burrow fan. I loved him last year. I think he struggled early in the season, but I think he's kind of figured it out, and he's still doing this without Jamar Chase. So,
Yeah.
A fully healthy Bengals team now is looking quite dangerous and quite scary. But still, that Tennessee team, they're always in the games. I think they still will surprise a couple people. And I do have a sneaky play for them this week, and that we'll get into. And let's not forget, I believe I had them as Super Bowl champs, but
17-16.
17-16. We have 3 more games we'll quickly touch on. I don't want to say too much about this one, but we have the Chargers and the Cardinals. Same exact ending between the Jags and the Ravens. Chargers score at the very end, Chargers score at the very end, go for 2. I think Everett gets that 2-point conversion. Unfortunately, Arizona then loses the game 25-24. I know you're on Arizona money line. I think, and I don't know for sure, but I think Arizona did exactly what you thought they were going to do this game, which was have a decent offensive game. Unfortunately, Herbert, I think, had his best game of the season. He had, I believe it was 28 fantasy points. I'm not entirely sure his stat line, but by far his best game of the season. But I think Arizona did what we thought they were going to do in regards to taking their money line. They played pretty well offensively. D-Hop had another great game. Connor looked unbelievable. So what are your thoughts on that one? I know it was a tough loss, and you did have Arizona money line, and that one just sucks at the end there.
Yeah, so I guess kicking the balls is going to be the phrase of the episode because, yeah, that's my second week in a row losing my outright underdog by a point where I had Indy over Philly the first week and now this one. Yeah, I think the read was there. I think we were right on Arizona. It just sucks that LA decided to get ballsy at the end, go for 2. And yeah, they went with the math and paid off for them. So good on them. It was an exciting game, but yeah, just not the ending that I was hoping for.
Yeah, and the Chargers now are in an interesting spot. They've really snuck their way up. They're now 6-5. They're looking really good for that wild card in the AFC. I don't think they quite have it yet, but they're, I think, the next team up behind the Bills, or maybe the third: Bills, Jets, Bengals, and then the Chargers. So they're a sneaky team. Again, they're not fully healthy. They're still, Keenan Allen did play that whole game, but he's a little banged up, and then Mike Williams is still out. So once they get everyone healthy, I think their receivers are unreal. They have, Palmer has been playing great. Everett's been a pretty decent tight end. He's been banged up as well. So I think Chargers have a lot of options, and I actually really like them in moving forward. Two more games. We have this game I called last week the best of the game between the teams that were the best that never was. We had the Raiders versus oh, never mind. It was Raiders Seattle. Raiders win the game 40-34. Josh Jacobs ran for 229 yards, absolutely destroyed fantasy once again. Josh Jacobs is kind of coming off as this sneaky back this year. He, in years past, he's been banged up, or he's just been too slow, or he just hasn't figured it out. But he's really figured it out this year, which is surprising because the Raiders still suck. They did pull this one out in OT. I believe Jacobs had the OT touchdown. But yeah, tough loss. But I thought that was a good win for Seattle. And looking, I know we keep pooping on them in the past, but I think this Raiders team has a decent chance to at least make something competitive this year. They are 4-7, but I think they have a decent shot at winning a couple more games this year. So I think they're a team to keep their eye on just because they have so many weapons. They have Carr, Adams, and now Jacobs, who's turning out to be a top 5 running back. So I think this squad, I don't think they'll make the playoffs, and I don't think they will. I don't know what I think, but I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but I think they could get, 5 more wins this year to at least make things competitive. I know I just completely blabbered there. I wrote the wrong thing down in my notes, which threw me off. But what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, first of all, just a ton of points scored in this game, which, I think isn't too shocking. Seattle's defense is pretty bad. Las Vegas does have the weapons that you mentioned. Seattle's offense is decent. But yeah, Josh Jacobs is just playing fantastic right now. He did bust that, I believe it was 86-yard touchdown run in overtime, which made me happy because I was going against Kenneth Walker and the Las Vegas kicker, Daniel Carlson, in fantasy. Okay. So that was a great ending there. Still lost in fantasy though, so it didn't really matter. But yeah, I mean, just kind of an odd weekend to see 2 overtime games, 2 games decided on a game-winning 2-point conversion. So really a good week in the NFL and just kept things interesting.
Yeah, and then finally, our last play was that Sunday night game between Green Bay and Philadelphia. Finally, my most confident play wins. I had the over in this game. I knew both teams were desperate for primetime attention and to prove something to the rest of the world that, Philly is, I think, one of the top teams in the NFL, but they have had 2 really bad weeks in a row. They played great offensively in this game. They really showed that they can, compete with just about anyone. Green Bay, on the other hand, was coming off a couple really bad losses. People are questioning Aaron Rodgers, and they battled the whole game. I know Aaron Rodgers got hurt there at the end, so we did see a little bit of Jordan Love, but even with Rodgers in the game and with Love, this game was always close. The final was 40-33. Yeah, I think this is a good game for Philly. Obviously, Green Bay is in a must-win situation for the rest of the year, so this one hurt. But they did prove that they can battle. And I know Rodgers just came on a podcast this morning saying he is going to play. I'm not quite sure what his injury is or the extent of it, but it sounds like he's going to play, which I think is a good thing because, Jordan Love, I think, has potential, but he's just not quite there in decision making and just in mechanics. So I think they're going to be better with Rodgers in the game, and it sounds like he's going to play. So, but yeah, interesting game for sure. I'm just finally glad that one of my predictions actually came out on top.
Yeah, another crazy game with 70 points scored. Yeah, Packers offense looked actually pretty good for just about the first time this season. Too little, too late at this point, but probably good for them going forward. Um, the big concern, though, and the thing that really stuck out to me in this game was that Jalen Hurts was over 100 yards in the first quarter alone. I do believe him and Miles Sanders were both right around 150 yards total rushing apiece in the game. So Green Bay does have some problems on that rush defense. I don't know if it gets much better this week if Justin Fields ends up playing, and David Montgomery could be an issue too for them. So, yeah, it should be an interesting game this week between Green Bay and Chicago there.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's, that's a tale as old as time, Chicago versus Green Bay. Unfortunately, Chicago's down a little bit, and so is Green Bay. But I hope, Fields can play and at least make that game interesting. So that was the recap of week 12. We'll get into week 13. We have highlighted 6 games here that we'll quickly touch on, give our predictions, then we'll get into our bets at the end. Our favorite bets at the end. So to start off, another NFC East matchup. We have the red hot Washington Commanders traveling to the Giants in a Sunday game. Washington now has won their last 3. They have won the last 4 out of 5. Taylor Heineke might be their guy, which is great. I don't think he'll get a huge contract extension just because he's this, who knows with this guy. But if they can keep him I would keep him next year if you can get him cheap. And whatever he's doing it right. And as a kind of a Washington Commanders fan, just because where I live, it's really good just to see that team build around him and get motivated by him, because he is something special. And I know he's not the athletic quarterback, but his emotional leadership, I think, is just something that you can't buy. And I think that's what makes him so special. In this game, though, I wish I could rally behind these Commanders, but I think the Commanders are favorites too at New York, which is kind of weird. I think I'm going to take the Giants here. It's a trap to take the Giants plus the money. But I think I'm going to do I'm going to buy a point here. They're at 2.5. I'm going to buy a point, take them at 3. It'll probably be minus 120, minus 125. But I think the Giants are going to snap the Commanders this week. The Giants are just a better team. Washington's kind of running off fumes or running off luck. So I think their luck's going to end. And I think the Giants are going to win this one in a really low scoring game.
Yeah, I completely agree. I believe Heineke is 6-0 against the spread now. And it just can't keep up. I mean, it really can't. I don't know for sure if this is going to be the week that ends, but I do lean the Giants as well. Just a super weird scheduling spot for both teams. I kind of touched on this last week, but Washington plays at New York, go on bye, and then they host New York the very next week. So in theory, they do have back-to-back games against the Giants, which is super odd. And then the Giants coming off that game at Dallas now have Washington. Then they go play at home against Philly next week while Washington's on their bye, and then to Washington. So just some weird scheduling divisional games for both teams. New York does have a bit of the rest advantage since they did play on Thanksgiving. So they have kind of that mini bye going for them. And statistically, I mean, these teams are super similar defensively and offensively. Both teams average just around 20 points scored per game. Both teams average just around 20 points against per game, which gets us to that 40.5 over-under line. I would lean the under, I believe, but it's about right where I would make it as well, so I won't be getting involved. So yeah, for me, you got to lean with the home dog in the division here with New York. And I would maybe even play it safe, take them in a 2-team 6-point teaser, take them up to 8.5, get them over that touchdown. I don't see it being more than a touchdown game either way. So I think that'd be pretty safe if you can find another team to group them in with. But yeah, I might end up going Giants money line on this one, actually. I kind of like them. And I do think it is important with such a quick turnaround there. I think whoever wins this game, the other team's going to have quite a bit of value here in 2 weeks when they play again.
Oh, I was just going to say the same exact thing. Yeah, I'm projecting the Giants are going to win this one or at least cover. But then that next week, I think the week after, I think the Commanders are just going to roll them. They have, a whole nother week coming off a bye and then playing the same team without a team in between. That's, technically 3 weeks of scouting in a row, because they scout all this week and now they have 2 more weeks. So
Right.
If they lose two in a row, like God forbid, that's just bad coaching. Like you
Right.
can't do that. So,
Yep.
um, no, I completely agree on that statement. I forgot that I written down here. I do love field goal props in this game. I know Washington's not a huge field goal team. They like going for and getting risky in the red zone, but all the Giants do is kick field goals. And I believe their kicker name, Gano, whatever his name is, he hits every single field goal prop I have. He hit that last week in the first quarter, I believe, in the first half last week against Cowboys. So I'm going to take both kickers, probably over 1.5 field goals in this game. I just think it's going to be like a 16-13 type of game. That's just how it feels. I think they have a lot of value there in kicker props, but I also am interested in that teaser. So let me know who else you tease with, and I'll probably travel along with you on that one.
For sure. Yeah, I like that Gano prop too. I liked it last week. Unfortunately, I didn't get on it myself, but I saw you tweet it out. Loved that.
Yeah.
Gano is my fantasy football kicker. I absolutely love him. I've loved him for years. I think he's, other than Justin Tucker, probably just the most consistent kicker in the NFL right now. So yeah, I really like that play.
Yeah, I've had success with the field goal props. It is a risky bet because you just see 1.5 field goals. You're like, oh, they can kick 2 field goals a game, but you won't believe how many times teams don't. But like teams like New York, teams like Jacksonville, the Chargers don't, but a lot of these Cleveland, Minnesota, New England, like all they do is kick field goals, and that's just
Right.
you. I've had success just finding those teams that aren't super aggressive in that red zone and do settle for field goals.
Yeah.
Moving on, I am actually going to this game. It is my early Christmas present. I'm driving down to Philly on Sunday, going to the Philly Titans game. Super pumped. It's going to be a great matchup. I have it right now as my third best game of the week. But it will be interesting here. And I'm not a huge Philly fan, but my mom's parents and my mom grew up in Philadelphia, so they're huge Eagles fans. So it'll be interesting. I know it's a pretty rowdy crowd. So it'll be a fun day. And I'm going completely against what I'm there for, but I think I am leaning Tennessee spread here. Tennessee right now is a 5.5 point dog. Over unders at 44.5. To me, I think the game's going to be close. I think Philly's going to squeeze it out, but I think it could be like a 3 or 4 point game. I just think 5.5 points is too much to this Tennessee team that just seems to stay in every game. I thought this spread should, be more of a field goal, possibly 3.5. As soon as you start getting to 4.5 to 5.5, I think that's just too many points for a Tennessee team that, in my opinion, is really good. I have them as my sneaky Super Bowl team. So I think Philly ends up with the win here, but I think Tennessee is gonna battle in this game. And I'll let you go, but this is my best prop of the day. I'll say it after your statement here.
Okay. Yeah, well, first of all, I mean that's sweet that you get to go to this game. Have you been to Philly before for a game?
No, nope. So
Yeah.
I haven't even been to the city. So yeah, I'm excited. I'll probably have a couple videos out on our Twitter, on our TikTok as well. So you can tune into those.
Nice, man. Yeah, that'll be cool. Yeah, I lean with you in Tennessee. I'm going back to the well with the team that just burnt me hard last week, but it's way too many points, I think. Um, I think Derrick Henry can run on this Philly team. Philly also does have New York on deck, the Giants that is. So that could be a big divisional game for them. With Dallas creeping around, New York is still just a little bit creeping around, and obviously Washington now, all above 500. So they're really focused on getting these divisional wins and keeping themselves ahead of everybody else in that divisional race. And also, they don't care that much about the Titans. It's AFC versus NFC.
Right.
They rarely play them every like 6 years or whatever it is. So yeah, I just think it's too many points. Philly also they're the third best rushing offense in the league. As mentioned, with Hurts and Miles Sanders both going close for 150 last week. But Tennessee has the third best rushing defense in the league, so it's going to be a battle of each team's strengths there. So I do think Philly's going to have to pass the ball a little bit. But I think Tennessee can control this game, control the tempo, run the ball. I do like Tennessee plus the 5.5. I think this game stays under 44.5. I think that's also a little bit correlated there. If Tennessee is going to cover, it's going to be a lower scoring game. If it's higher scoring, Philly likely covers. So if you could find a book that lets you, I know some books don't let you parlay that all the time, but If you could parlay both of those, I mean, I think it is fairly correlated. And I don't bet many props at all. I actually also have a prop in this game, but I'm gonna let you go first with yours,
Okay.
and then I'll get to mine.
All right. So you kind of touched on it with, Tennessee having a really good rush defense, Philly having a really good rush offense. Tennessee, I believe, has the worst passing defense in the league, 286.5 yards per game. Philly, I think, is passing for right around 230, 240 per game. I think Tennessee's defense is going to shut them out in the rushing game, which is going to force Jalen Hurts to throw. And we all know Jalen Hurts is really a really good quarterback on his legs. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a whole lot of success in the air. So I think my prop here is Hurts interceptions, and I have the over in his interceptions. It should just be at 0.5. Will probably be like minus 130, minus 140, but I think that could be a 3-unit play. I think he's going to have to go to the air, and he's just not the most accurate guy. And despite Tennessee having a really bad pass defense, they still are a really aggressive defense that finds ways to make plays. So I think Hurts is going to have to go to the air, which usually means he's going to make a mistake somewhere in there and throw a pick.
Yeah, so we're kind of around the same track there. In a way, I also have Tennessee as the third worst pass defense in the league. So I'm actually looking at Hurts to have over 1.5 passing touchdowns.
Okay.
And that's I wouldn't be shocked too if he has a pick and if he kind of struggles, but I don't think they're going to have success on the ground whatsoever. Which would lead me, they're probably going to find the end zone twice. So, yeah, it would lead me to Hurts to throw for a couple.
Yeah, I agree with that. We might as well just throw in Hurts over passing yards too, just to make it a
Might as well.
trifecta.
Right.
Passing yards, passing touchdowns, and picks. I think it's going to be a lot more passing than Philly's going to be comfortable with, and that's kind of why I'm leaning Tennessee. But yeah, it should be an interesting game. I will definitely let you know how it is,
Yeah.
and yeah, I'm excited for it. My next this is my most entertaining game of the week, in my opinion. That Tennessee Philly game I said was number 3. This one I believe is the best one, and it is Cincinnati versus Kansas City. It's at Cincy, and this is where we get a kind of a weird line, in my opinion. And I know Cincy's playing great, but Kansas City is only a 1.5-point favorite on the road. I was expecting them to be at least be 2.5, possibly even a 3-point favorite. So it's just kind of weird for me to see that line so small. But I think it's kind of noted or it's deserved because Cincy has really turned it on this last couple of weeks. And I think Jamar is I think he might be coming back. So I think that's probably why the line is where it is. So it should be an interesting game. This is a game where I don't want to pick a spread just because I don't like the line. I think it's ugly. So I'm either going to take the money line one side or the other. I am leaning this KC overall money line on this one. And then I really like the over in this. I think it's the highest over on the weekend. It's at 53 right now. It was at 52.5. It could possibly go up to 53.5. I don't think it's going to go much past that, but I do think this is an over game. Everything on it's an over game. Both teams are, Kansas City's throwing for 323 yards. Bengals are throwing for 290. Both teams have mediocre pass defenses. I just think this is going to be a passing attack, and I can see it being like a 30-27 game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like Kansas City quite a bit in this spot. We talked about it last week, but just a really tough spot for Cincinnati this week. Kansas City played the Rams last week. I don't know if they spent any time game planning for that game. No Stafford, no Cup. Now Aaron Donald is banged up. Just LA looks completely horrible right now. And this is Kansas City's biggest revenge game of the year. This is the team that knocked them out of the AFC Championship game, ended their Super Bowl hopes of last year. So I think Kansas City comes out screaming in this game. I really like their money line. They have Denver on deck, which is a divisional game. At the beginning of the season, you would think huge look ahead spot for Kansas City here, but they don't need to do too much to get ready for Denver, in my opinion.
Yep.
Cincinnati also has, they came off that tough win against Tennessee that I think they showed they put a lot of effort into. And they have Cleveland on deck, which is going to be a revenge game for them after that beatdown they got on Halloween, Monday Night Football from Cleveland. So tough spot for Cincinnati. I think a great spot for Kansas City. Really like the Chiefs in this game. And And yeah, I like the over as well. Both teams are in the top 6 offensively for yards per game. They're in the top 4 for passing yards per game, and in the top 5 for points scored offensively. Cincinnati is 27th in rushing offense, and I do think to have a good rushing game is kind of how you can beat the Chiefs, and they just don't. I think Mixon's going to be back, but he's still banged up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Kansas City has the better defense overall. I really like Kansas City, really like the over. I think it's just a passing attack. Wouldn't be shocked to see this one go kind of where a couple of those games went last week, up into the high 60s, low 70s, somewhere in there. So it is a high total, but I think it gets there.
Yeah, I exactly with you on this one. I think it'll be a very interesting game, and I do think Kansas City is just going to pull it out. We'll move to this is my second favorite, most excited game of the week. It is Miami at San Fran. I personally have no idea how this game is going to go. My only thought on this game is that a Miami win here could really solidify them being a really good team. I know a lot of people are overlooking them. No one really knows how to feel about them. They are, I believe, 7-4 at the top of that division. 8-3. Sorry, they're 8-3 at the top of their division. They do hold that tiebreaker over the Bills. So I think this is a really good opportunity for Miami if they want to start getting actual talks of, hey, they could be Super Bowl contenders. I think a big win here could give them that. They are a 4-point dog, which is a little surprising to me. That seems a little bit high. So just based off the possibility that Miami could have a statement win here, I like Miami +4.
Yeah, this game's really tough. I would give just a slight edge spot wise to San Francisco. Miami has the Chargers on deck in LA. And the only reason I think that's even remotely a look ahead spot for them is because it did get flexed into the Sunday night game. So it is going to
Okay.
be prime time for them. San Fran at home this week. And they're coming off that game against New Orleans where, I don't think they gave New Orleans the time of day. Obviously, got in, got out with a 13-0 win, and they're probably
Right.
pretty prepared for this game. San Fran's defense, I knew they were good, but I really dug in today. I mean, they're really good. They're number 1 in yards per game allowed. They're 11th in pass yards per game allowed, first in rush yards per game allowed, and first in points allowed. So, I mean, they're just about running the board there in defensive statistics. Um, yeah, I think both teams are going to be passing because that is you can't really call it a weakness, but as far as the defense goes for San Fran, I guess it is their weakness. That's definitely Miami's strength. They can't run the ball at all. They're not going to try to run the ball against this stout 49ers defense. So I would lean the over, which I do
Okay.
think also kind of correlates with San Francisco winning. I could see it being a touchdown game for San Fran. Um, but yeah, I think I like the side a little bit more than the total, I think. I could see San Fran completely shutting down this offense and holding Miami to only 13 or 17 points, somewhere in there. But there's just, I mean, if you think about the offenses, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, um,
Kittle.
Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Jeff Wilson. I mean, we got skilled players all over the field, so it's hard to look at the under in this game.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll probably I really do like Miami. I kind of like Tua. I'm a big fan of those wide receivers, Waddle and Hill. I think they will be. I don't know if they have it in them this year to really break out to be contenders, but I just like the possibility of them maybe making a statement. So that's I might just sprinkle emotionally on it. Nothing, no huge units on that. Maybe just a half unit or something on that +4 just for shits and giggles. But we have one more to recap here. I'll let you go with this one, and I just want to hear your thoughts on it because I have my own thoughts, and it's an interesting game. Jacksonville, Detroit. It's at Detroit. Jacksonville currently is a 1-point favorite. Over under is at 51.5. What are you thinking on this one?
Yeah, so like we mentioned already, Jacksonville had a pretty tight, emotional game last week against Baltimore, pulling off the upset with that 2-point conversion at the end of the game. They're at Tennessee. That's their game on deck there. So a nice divisional matchup. Detroit coming off the loss against Buffalo, which was also hard fought, although that was on Thursday. So they do have a bit of a rest advantage there. And they are playing Minnesota. So they also have a divisional game on deck. But I think there's just a slight lean to Detroit in the spot. They get to stay home. And they don't have to travel next week. So it's the middle of 3 straight home games for them, which is nice. Yeah, so I don't play Detroit too often, but I believe they're getting a point right now. I'd maybe look to play them on the money line in this game. I think Jacksonville's probably a little bit overvalued after that win last week. And yeah, I think Detroit's just playing good football right now. I would tend to look at the over. Detroit defense is just the worst in the league. I mean, just across the board. I think yeah, I mean, Lawrence should be able to pass all over them, and I think ETN has a day. But both teams allow over 100 rushing yards per game. Both teams rush for over 100 yards per game, I believe. And Goff at home, I mean, he's competent. He can pass. So I do think there will be a lot of points in this game. I could see this being like a 37-34 game. Either way, I would lean Detroit in that.
Yeah, I love this game. I think Detroit's going to win this one pretty easily. I'm a little weary of the over just because I'm not sure what Jacksonville is going to do, which sounds weird. I don't think Detroit really shuts anyone out. But instead of the over, I think I'm going to lean the team total Detroit over. I'm not exactly sure what that is. It's probably, 26, 27 points. So I'd be interested in taking that Detroit team total over as well as Detroit money line. I know that 1 point, that's pretty much a pick 'em. So I think this is a great game for Detroit. They're really battling. They still have outside chance at making that wild card spot. So I think this is a really good game. And, both these teams, I think they're 1-2 in the draft last year. So it's kind of like how these teams match up because they're very similar in the last couple of years. They've both been bottom of the league. Jacksonville has kind of risen a little faster than Detroit is, but now Detroit's kind of coming on late. So it's interesting to see. And I think it will be really motivational for Detroit to, come out and just blow Jacksonville out of the water. So I think Detroit's going to win this one by 17. I'll probably ladder it up to -7 and -10 on a couple bets. I think this is going to be a pretty big game for Detroit, and I think Jacksonville is going to struggle a little bit offensively.
Send that my way. I'll probably tell you on a couple of those.
Yeah, I think Detroit team total is a really easy bet there. I think that's going to be a pretty big, possibly a 3-unit play for me. I have to look at to see exactly what their point total is. I'm going to guess with a total like 51.5, they're probably right around that 26, 25, 26, 27 line. I think Detroit easily is going to score 30. So I think that's a pretty good play. Yeah, so those are the games we have. I know we didn't go through them all. If we did, that would take us 3 hours. But I thought those are the most interesting games of the board. We obviously bet most of the NFL games. So if you follow us on Twitter or our TikTok and whatnot, we'll post our plays out. We have a quick little segment on futures. I know you wanted to talk about this for a little bit. I don't have a whole lot here. What do we got future wise? Any updates? I know you're a big future bettor, and yeah, give us a little update on what you got or any new futures you're interested in.
Yeah, so looking over the futures this week, nothing really stood out for myself to take necessarily. But just one thing I do want to just reiterate, when you're looking at, the season long futures going forward, especially, the Super Bowl or conference winners, things like that. I just really think all of the value lies in the NFC. I think you're probably doing yourself a displeasure if you're looking at the AFC. Kansas City's plus 400 to win the Super Bowl. The Bills are right behind them at plus 450. Vegas is telling us it's probably going to be one of those two to at least make it to the Super Bowl. And your guess is as good as mine as to which one is actually going to do it. So unless you're betting an equal amount on both of those teams and banking on one of them doing it, I just don't see much value there. So I really think the NFC is the more wide open side, and I think that's where all the value lies. And, their odds are Philly plus 600, San Fran plus 650, Dallas plus 900, and then Minnesota plus 1800. I think it's going to be one of those four teams for sure. You could probably even push Minnesota out. I think it's going to be San Fran, Dallas, or Philly. And I really think San Fran and Philly, or sorry, San Fran and Dallas are just built to make a playoff push. Um, I'd be pretty shocked if it's not one of those two representing the NFC in the Super Bowl this year. So yeah, I think if you're looking to bet Super Bowls, those are really your two options at this point. San Francisco and Dallas. And really in futures, you just want to set yourself up to make a profit. So if you do get there and they're playing Kansas City or Buffalo or whoever, and you don't feel as comfortable, you can always hedge out from there.
Right.
You're going to get 6-1 minimum right now on all three of those NFC teams. So yeah, just wanted to, that's where I see all the value in the NFC.
Yeah, and like you said, it's a toss up on the AFC, and -4 or plus 450 isn't great just for a toss up. I would probably just throw it all on the Chiefs if you're going to pick one of those two teams. I think the Chiefs are just overall the better team. I don't really know how bad Josh Allen is really hurt. I know he's not 100%. If he was 100%, it's a completely different story. I think Buffalo is just the better team with a completely healthy Josh Allen, but with this injury, I don't think he's going to be that 100% for the rest of the year. So if you were to take an AFC side, I would lean Kansas City, but I think you're exactly right on the NFC. There really only are, three teams that even have a chance. I could see Philly making a little bit of a run. I could see them making that divisional champion or that conference championship game. I don't know if they can make it to the Super Bowl, but between those three teams, the value is definitely there. Much more than the AFC. So I completely agree with you.
Yep.
Finally, we'll wrap it up with our bets that we do each week. We won't give you a complete recap of our bets just because they are so bad. But year to date, I am 40%, four for 10. Ethan, you are 20% or 2 for 10. So we have a lot to work on. And yeah, let's just get into it. So how we do it, we pick a most confident bet. We pick an over and an under. We pick an underdog and a favorite. So there's 5 bets per week. And last week and the week before was actually pretty brutal. So we're due for a big win, just like Taysom Hill's due for a touchdown. So we'll switch it up a little bit. I'll let you start with we'll start upwards or backwards. So your favorite of the week. So your team that's expected to win. What's your favorite team to do that?
Well, yeah, first of all, just want to thank you for sparing me from walking through each pick last week as I went 0-5. I said last week on the show we could only go up from the first week. Well, this is true. I can only go up from here. I promise you I will not go 0-5 this week. My favorite is going to be that San Francisco 49ers team. It is a juicy -200 on the money line there, but I think at home, with their dominant defense, I just think they go in there, get the job done, and they're trying to keep pace and take a bigger divisional lead over Seattle. So I think they're motivated enough to go in there, get the job done, and come out with the victory.
Yeah, I think that's it's going completely against my play. Again, mine was just the emotional hedge on the Dolphins. I just think, Dolphins are in a decent spot. I don't think they're going to win it, and I think that's a pretty good play. My favorite, we didn't talk about this game, but I do like the Vikings again this week over the Jets. Vikings again playing at home, very tough place to play. Jets right now benched Zach Wilson. I believe they're starting Mike White is his name. I believe he's a starter this week. I don't know if that's been stated yet, but regardless, even if Wilson is playing, I do like Minnesota in this game. They're currently a 3-point favorite. I like them for the money line, obviously, and I have a really hard time seeing them lose this game. I also wouldn't mind taking the under in that game, but that's not one of my plays. Just a game we didn't talk about. I'll go next with my underdog of the week. I am going to go against the crowd. I'm going to be at the game. I probably, if I was smart, would be taking all Philly bets, but I'm going to squeeze in there a Titans money line. I think Titans are going to pull it out. I don't trust Jalen Hurts in the passing game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game where Tennessee pulls it out by 3 or 4 points.
Yeah, I think this is the first time this has happened, but mark me down for that as well. I have Tennessee as my outright dog. Going back to the well, with that team. So please, Tennessee, don't hurt me 2 weeks in a row. But yeah, I think you know, Philly's going to lose more than one game this season. I think it's just inevitable, and I think this Titans team has what it can takes to topple Philadelphia, give them another loss.
Yeah, and I know we both took Tennessee last week. I took them money line. You took them money line. So they harmed us last week, but I really like this play for them, and I'll be quietly cheering because I don't want to cheer too loud, or I think I might get beat up out there. But I think it's a really good situation for Tennessee, and I think the Eagles could possibly be looking past this game or just not caring enough for this game.
I might
We'll
have
go
to
into. Go ahead.
I might have to bet Philly to win by exactly 1 point. See if we can make it 3 weeks in a row that my outright underdog loses by a point. So
Honestly, it was probably worth a sprinkle there.
yeah, at least make it profitable.
We'll move on to our over unders of the weekend. I have struggled with both these bets. I've crossed these out 3 or 4 times, changed teams a couple different times. I'll start with my under, then I'll let you go for your over and your under. My under is going to be in that Saints Tampa Bay game. I started out loving the over in this game. It's at 40.5. After really thinking about it, the as you said earlier, the Bucks really haven't scored over, I think you said 20 points in the last whatever 3 or 4 weeks. So I just don't really see them having a really big offensive game. And then the Saints right now are really struggling. Besides the one touchdown from Taysom Hill, I think this game's going to soar under that 40.5. I could see like a 17-10 kind of game. So I just can't trust Tom Brady right now, and I'm not going to put any money on the Saints scoring more than one touchdown. So I like the under in that one.
Yeah, that stat was Tampa has only scored over 22 points one time this season.
Okay. Yep.
Um,
I don't think they're going to do it this week.
nope. Well, I'm happy I didn't have that as my under because I was juggling between two, and that was the other one. I kind of have a feeling we're going to be on the same over here, so that would have made for kind of a boring show if we had three of the same. But this is a game we didn't talk about. It could go either way. I'm going to take a shot on Cleveland Houston under 47. The return of Deshaun Watson, 700 plus days since he's taken an NFL snap. Obviously, your guess is as good as mine for how he's going to come out and play. I think they're going to be cautious with him. I think it's going to be a healthy dose of Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb this week, running the clock. Houston they just can't put up points. Just really have struggled offensively as of late. I don't know who's going to be their quarterback, if it's going to be Davis Mills or Ryan Allen or whoever that was that played for them last week. I don't think it matters. I don't think they're going to get over 20, and I don't think Cleveland's going to I just think they're going to be really cautious and kind of slow. Let Deshaun, just work his way back into the NFL. So yeah, give me the under 47 in that game.
Yeah, and I know this wasn't one we didn't talk about this one, but I personally love Houston +7 in this game. It's a revenge game for them. It's Deshaun's old places. It's Deshaun's first game back. It's a very emotional game just with him, coming back from all the sexual allegation charges, and let alone he's playing his old team. So I think he's in a terrible spot. I love Houston in this spot at the +7. I know you either probably should be favored by or the underdog by way more, but I think Houston might even win that one outright. I was debating putting them as my underdog and really growing a pair, but I couldn't force myself to do it with my poor record so far. But I think Houston +7 is a very interesting play this week.
Yeah, I agree. That game's just tough to handicap. I mean, 700 days away from football at the highest level I don't know what to make of it, but
yeah, there's nothing that can sway you one way or the other. He could either come out and play like he's never missed a snap, or you could see him forget how to pass a ball. So I'm interested to watch that game just because there's a lot of media will be on that game, a lot of different stories going on. So it'll be an interesting game. And maybe they could just say, fuck it, and they just start Jacoby Brissett. So that could also be interesting. They haven't came out fully and saying Brissett's going to not start, but it's looking like Deshaun's probably going to be the man.
Right.
The over of the weekend, what do you got? I think we might be on the same page here.
Yeah, we touched on it. For me, I like Kansas City, Cincinnati over 53.
I'm in the same boat there.
Okay.
Again, just too much passing in my mind. not enough defense. It's going to be a pretty big spotlight game. I have a really hard time seeing that going under. It is the highest over of the week, which we got to be a little cautious of, but that also kind of makes me like it even more.
I'm bummed this game didn't get flexed to the Sunday night spot and kick Indy and Dallas out of that game because that's going to be probably a blowout there. So
Yeah, I
bummed we
don't know
can't get
why.
this prime time.
I don't know why they didn't do that. It's probably just because everyone loves Dallas and whatnot, but that's an 11-point spread. That's not going to be an interesting game at all. I mean, possibly, I don't know. I don't know why they didn't flex that. Probably because Jerry Jones is paying a shitload of money to keep that on prime
Probably.
time.
And Kansas City's been on prime time every other week, it seems like.
That's
So,
true. That's very
but
true.
hey, they're fun
Yeah,
to watch.
it's an interesting game. All right, our most confident plays. Who do you want to go first, me or you?
Go for it.
All right, I'm going to take Detroit money line, my most confident play. They're a slight underdog. They'll probably be like plus 100 right now. I think Detroit again is going to win this one by 17. I'm probably going to ladder it up to at least 7. I might even add in that 10-point ladder in this game. I think this is just a great spot for Detroit to really prove that, between them and Jacksonville, who are notorious for being the bottom 2 teams in the league, I think this is a chance for Detroit to say, hey, we're past them. Like, we're just the better team now. So, and I hate betting on Detroit because they'll probably screw me in the pooch, but I really have a hard time seeing Detroit lose this one.
I like that quite a bit. I hope Hutchinson goes out there, gets 3 sacks, shows Jacksonville that they messed up with that first pick.
Yeah.
Would love that. But my most confident is gonna be the Kansas City money line.
Okay.
I'm gonna fade Cincy once again in my most confident pick. So yeah, if Cincy wins this game, I probably won't be fading them again this season. And I guess that goes for Tennessee as well. If Tennessee loses, I probably won't be betting on them again this season. So yeah, I'm gonna go back to the well once again, fade Cincinnati. Just think it's a horrible spot for them. Think Kansas City comes in motivated and probably puts up 35, 40 points on them. So
Yeah,
Kansas City.
I think this list we got here, these 5 teams, are these 5 bets each. I think this is a better week. It's just coming out. I'm feeling that we maybe turning a corner here. But obviously we won't know till Sunday. But I'm very excited for those. Do you have anything to add before we sign off?
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel pretty good about these bets. We are in lockstep on 2 of them, so that's it could determine how we both do. Hopefully we win both of those, and I would love for each of us to go 4-1 or better this week. So yeah, we'll see you on Sunday.